Well, folks, welcome to another edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you. As usual, we have three important videos that I want to show you all today. Again, today it's going to be, for starters at least, just about all Gaza, all Israel, all Isafah. But you know why? Because, folks, until this stuff is over, somebody has to be looking out for our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Somebody has to be talking about our brothers and sisters in Gaza getting murdered. Somebody has to keep the pressure on so that people understand what is actually going on out there. We cannot abandon, we cannot leave folks to the whims of the to the whims of the how should we say it, to the whims of a mainstream media that cares little about them. So it is important that we talk about this. It is important that we continue to make sure to keep it on the front page. If not on the front page of the Times elsewhere, it's on our front page that we can continue to make sure that America understand what's going on throughout the world. Because, folks, what's happening is the instantiation. Look, it started with evil from Hamas. But what has happened thus far is the multiplicative evil of uh, Benjamin Netanyahu. I repeat, the multiplicative evil of Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's not be fooled about what's going on here at all, but let's start on a positive note. I want to start on a positive note, but before that, of course, I got to salute all my peeps. Welcome aboard, Bridge MCP. Welcome aboard, Paul Fleming from Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome aboard, Bridge from upstate New York. Welcome aboard, Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas. Welcome aboard, para ver AVQ, Brooklyn, New York. And of course, there's Melanie Keelan, Barcelona, Spain. May Wood from California. Yvette Avery Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you guys for being here. Our early birds that are in the house with us today. Great to see everybody. But we are going to talk and we are going to have a good time. Anyway, keep those chats rolling. Hi, all, says Lee Grant, who just chimed in as well. Don't forget, you can also give us a call at 281 823 7747. That is 281 823 7747. Michael says, I just skimmed Eric Hayes' ABC News article about a canceled book. Why share that? I don't get it. Oh, Eric is in the house. I didn't even see Eric in the house yet. But Eric, if I missed you on the screen, welcome aboard, Eric Hayes. But I don't see Eric in the house. Let's see. Bree says, so tired of talking about Gaza. I understand why, but it's pissing me off. Nothing has changed but more death. And the reason why we can't stop talking about it is they would like us to stop talking about it so that Netanyahu can kill and maim and take over in silence. If we're not talking about it, he can continue to maim and kill indiscriminately. But here's the interesting thing. I had an interview with Charlotte Dunnett that I'm going to play over the holidays. I think you guys are going to like it, where she speaks about the hidden stuff that you don't know about why Israel is so much decimating the North. There are always some kind of financial reasons, especially when we're talking about right wing people. You always find it. Tom C. joined the house. Greetings from Michigan. Temps dropping. Winter is coming. Oh no. Yes, winter is coming. Winter is coming. Anyhow, folks, I tell you what, let's go ahead and should we get started with the first video? If you guys don't have anything else to say for me to read out, I will. Pray for our brothers and sisters in Tel Aviv under rocket attack. I tell you what, why didn't you pray for our brothers and sisters in Tel Aviv under rocket attack and our brothers and sisters in Gaza under immense bombing that's actually causing damage, that's actually maiming and killing people? That's where I'm talking about the difference in humanity here, Lee Grant. And I'm going to pick up on you. I'm going to put you on the center stage, my dear brother. I want you to start feeling the same way you feel about the potential harm that the rockets being shot into Tel Aviv, that so far has killed no one, that the dome that we are paying for has knocked out of the skies, compared to the actual bombs, machine guns, and grenades being launched by the Israeli Army, Navy, Air Force, and that's actually killing people, that's actually maiming babies, that's actually busting people's skulls open, blowing people's arms off right now as we speak. Will you pray for them too, my dear brother Lee Grant? Do you feel their humanity as well, brother Lee Grant? I mean, it's nice and great to come out and say, let's pray for our brothers and sisters in Tel Aviv. They're not going through paramo like our brothers and sisters in Gaza are. They're not starving. They're not thirsting. They're not left without communication to the outside world so that their families can know if they're in good shape or not. Let's remember that. So I ask you, I would like a response, my dear brother Lee Grant. You know you're my brother. I want to hear it. Are you praying just as well for Gaza? Are you praying just as well for Gaza? I want an answer, brother. Michael Rodden says some people only care one side of the conflict. No, I care about both sides. Paul Fleming says former First Lady Rosalind Carter, 96, entered hospice care today. I heard that on the news, my brother. Thanks for bringing it up to our posse. Michael Rodden says, Egberto, understand that the threat of attack is enough for some people to call for retaliation. And when that retaliation comes, it's always disproportionate. And sadly, here's the other thing that they're not telling you. Because of our president's stance with that war criminal Netanyahu, America is now in danger from the blowback. I repeat, America is now in danger for the blowback. So as we fly during the holidays, I haven't gotten that, but I will be listening to it. I promise you, Bruce, I will. I again, again, again. Let me back up. Prayers for Gaza too. Lee Grant, thank you. Thank you, Brother Grant. I know it was there, Brother Grant. Thank you. Brother Grant is praying for both Gaza and Tel Aviv. All right. Now I don't know where Eric's head is. I really do. I, I love Eric, but I swear to God, I don't know where Lee's head is. Not Lee's. I'm sorry, Lee. I know where Lee is. Lee's a brother. I don't know where Eric's head is. Sometimes things simply don't seem to compute. I don't know. I'm sorry, Eric, but I don't know how you came up with that statement, Eric. I really don't know how. E2247 is in the house. Bosho, hello, relatives. Trusting you all are fine on this day. Yes, we are. And by the way, there are going to be a few days next week that we're going to still go live, but with taped episodes of interviews that I have done that likely you hadn't heard before. I have several of them in the queue that I'm going to be putting together over the weekend for the holidays. And so we're going to be talking about that. Let's see what else we got here. What else have we got here? But Lee Grant, I really appreciate your statement. I really do. Paul Fleming says today the Texas House of Representatives is debating Governor Greg Abbott's voucher scam, which defunds public school to subsidize private school for his wealthy donors. If this becomes law, San Antonio schools will lose millions of dollars that could protect neighborhood schools and keep great teachers. It's a shame. I see that you have a part two. Is that correct, Lee Fleming? Paul Fleming. Last year, ProPublica reported on software that uses algorithm to recommend profit maximizing rents to landlords across the U.S. A massive federal lawsuit followed. Just this week, the DOJ joined the suit. Algorithms are the new frontier, federal prosecutors said in their filing. Yeah, it's all about how can we take the most money away from you. Melanie says, hi, yeah. All right. Okay, what have I got here? Okay, let's go ahead and start with the first video. This one has to do with a Jewish representative, and I could not have been more proud of what she did. This is a great Jewish sister. Listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side. Remember this name, Congresswoman Becca Balint, Democrat of Vermont. She is the first congressperson, Democratic congressperson that has come out and asked for a ceasefire in Gaza. She is also a friend and came out in support of Rashida Tlaib, and more importantly, against what AIPAC is doing in attempting to get rid of all those women who have spoken up in support of a Palestinian state at end of the ceasefire and to protect the rights of Palestinians. Won't you listen to Becca Balint, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Today, Congresswoman Becca Balint became the first Jewish Congress member to call for a ceasefire in Gaza. Writing in the Vermont Digger, I'm one generation removed from the horrific trauma of the Holocaust, which impacted my family and reshaped the world. Like me, there are thousands of American Jews that share a deep emotional connection to Israel because of what it meant for the survival of the Jewish people in the face of extermination. This same history also drives so many of us to fight for the protection of Palestinian lives. I do not claim to know how to solve every aspect of this decades-long conflict, but what I do know is that killing civilians and killing children is an abomination and categorically unacceptable, no matter who the civilians are and no matter who the children are. And Congresswoman Becca Balint, Democrat from Vermont, joins me now. I want to first ask if I pronounced your name correctly, Congresswoman.
I always say Balint rhymes with talent. So
Balint, and I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here and taking the time. I just want to ask you what the reaction has been. I know that this issue is so fraught for so many people. It's so emotional. And I just wonder what the reaction to you coming out for a ceasefire has been in your community, in your family.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate that question. I want people to understand, I wrote this op-ed for Vermonters. It was really geared at my constituents. That was the audience, because it was clear to me that people didn't realize the depth of my emotion, what I had been struggling with for a month. And as politicians, you can't convey that in a tweet or a short statement. And I am a writer, and I thought I have to take the careful time. It took me a week to write that op-ed, of really thinking carefully, what do I think? What do I feel? How do I express that to my constituents? And here's what I know, Joy. Every single member of Congress on the Democratic side that I have talked with in the last month, we all want the same things. We want the suffering to end. We want the bombs to stop falling. We want Hamas not to be in charge in Gaza anymore. We want the hostages back. We all want this. We are all in such pain. And I'm new to Congress, but I've talked with a lot of older members. They've all said the same things. This is the hardest moment they've ever been in, because it is such a complex issue. It's been such a complex issue for so long that there are no easy answers. And we have gotten so hung up on trying to get the exact right words in this moment to express ourselves that we're not saying what it is that we all have in common, which is why I know each colleague of mine is going to be on their own path and figuring out how to say the things that they need to say to their constituents. But I believe there is so much more that connects us in what we want and what we think is needed to get to a two-state solution than what divides us. And I'm trying to create a space for that conversation to happen, because I don't want anyone to think that I feel like I get it exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm doing and saying what my constituents need to hear from me. And that has been my guidepost through this whole thing. And it is incredibly emotional. We all want to end the suffering. And I do want viewers to understand that, whether your member has said it in a way that you want them to say it, or on the timeline that you wanted to say it, I want to reassure everyone, we all want the same things. We're just perhaps differing on what we think is the best strategy to get there.
You are from Vermont. There is a rather famous United States senator from your state who a lot of his constituents are progressives who have been disappointed that Senator Bernie Sanders has not joined you in this call for a ceasefire. Does it surprise you that he has not? And does it surprise you that it's only Dick Durbin? There are 31 people total, 31 Democrats total who've called for a ceasefire. Only Dick Durbin in the Senate. Does it surprise you Bernie Sanders has not?
It doesn't, because I know Bernie well, and we've talked repeatedly over the last month. And I know he wants the same things that I do, as I said. And he is on, his own journey of how he conveys that to his constituents. Again, I do not believe that calling for a ceasefire is the litmus test for whether people care about Palestinians or want an end to this conflict. I know he does deeply. We have to give each other a little bit more grace here.
One of the sort of not giving a lot of grace, AIPAC has indicated that there's a list of progressive members who are mainly women of color. They're all women of color, actually, who are now on their list that they are going to try to unseat. What do you make of the fact that this has become a litmus test for that lobby, that they are going to try to remove them, and that one of those members was already sanctioned by the House, including some Democrats joining in that?
Yes,
including and she's the only Palestinian, I should note, Rashida Tlaib.
Exactly, and that is exactly right. And I stood up for Rashida Tlaib, who we talked about. She is a friend of mine. She was one of the people who texted me today that we both share a history of our people suffering. And that has brought us together as friends. I don't support this effort to try to drive out women of color from Congress. I do not support trying to take on, as you said, the only Palestinian American member of Congress.
Yeah.
I think this is completely the wrong way to go about bringing this country together in our shared values, which is a secure Palestine, a secure Israel, making sure the hostages are all released. It is just driving more of a wedge. And I want to be someone who is trying to bring people together and not continue to drive wedges.
This is what we need. We need brave Congress people who are willing to buck the system, buck the past, work that continuously only saw things through the eyes of Israel, whether it's a right-wing government in Israel or some sort of a center-right government in Israel. They've constantly, America has tended to simply look at things in one direction. It is great that we have Becca Balint, who decided that she was going to buck the system. She was going to choose humanity over machismo. She's going to choose humanity over the evil that has been occurring in those lands for all these times. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Anyway, folks. Michael Rodman, I don't look. Let me just say something. Distinguish between the caller, rather the host and the topic. You know, if Sean Hannity had a positive message that I needed to get across, I have no problem using Sean Hannity. I don't like Sean Hannity, but if he has a message that I needed to get across, I will use it. My goal is to get truth and values over to the people that we have listening to us and being able to promote the message. Joy interviewed a very important member of Congress, and I felt it necessary. I don't care who the messenger is, to go out there and put it out there. Very, very important, because again, there are a lot of our Jewish brothers and sisters out there, and many a times they stay quiet, and they stay quiet because they think that they're going to get a whole lot of blowback for the position that they take. I think we must I think we must give these people that are looking for truth, these people that are doing the right thing, they must get their say, and they must get whatever is necessary there. Okay, Eric says, river to the sea, not hold. Again, you know what? It's so interesting for all of those who love to use the river, from the river to the sea as something that's anti-Semitic. It would do well to understand that the tenet, the Likud platform, is the one that came up with that phrase that speaks about Israel being from the Jordan River to the sea. Okay, so it cannot be anti-Semitic when the phrase was actually put into place, not by Hamas, not by the PLO, not by Hezbollah, but it's actually codified in the in the in the paper, I guess a platform, Likud. Let me look it up for you just to show you as a fact. The Likud platform, from the, let's say, from the river to the sea, because again, one of, and I learned, by the way, I learned this particular one on TikTok. Okay, and that's why I said the real problem with TikTok too often, or rather with people who don't like TikTok, is that what TikTok does is it exposes a lot of things with a position, with a particular direction, that is not, let's say, the given one that was forced down your throat. Let's go ahead now and look at the Likud original 1977 platform. 1977 platform from Likud said the following. It says, the right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. A, the right of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is eternal and indisputable, and is linked with the right to security and peace. Therefore, Judea and Samaria will not be handed to any foreign administration. Between the sea and the Jordan, there will only be Israeli sovereignty. A plan which relinquishes parts of Western Eretz Israel undermines our rights to the country, unavoidably leads to the establishment of a Palestine state, jeopardizes the security of the Jewish people, endangers the existence of the state of Israel, and frustrates any prospect of peace. So, whenever you are following the propaganda from a particular sect of our Israeli brothers and sisters, understand the facts. Okay? Remember what we talk about, what Republicans do a lot of. They do a lot of projection, and in that projection, it is things that they do that they try to accuse others of. Remember that. Projection. Now, it's the same thing that Republicans do here. They're the ones that harm kids. They're the ones that sexually. I'm just talking in the aggregate. If you look at if you do a calculation of who harm kids, it's pastors and preachers and police officers, etc. But somehow you want to make that a progressive thing. It's called projection. So yeah, don't allow anybody to put down Rashida Tlaib because she's using a phraseology that means that she believes in. Whereas this platform talks about an Israel that extricates Palestinians out of it, the river to the sea that many of Palestinians talk about is the coexistence of everybody in one state. But I mean, so let's be clear here. That's what it's all about. Okay. So again, it's important that you study and you just don't come to very raw conclusions. Welcome aboard, Melissa Bowie. Great to see you here, my dear beautiful lady. Tom C., I think I saluted you already. And if there's anybody else that I miss, Let me know. You know, I like to salute everybody that's in the chat. And by the way, Eric Hayes just said gaslighting. Don't just say gaslighting. Give the statement that makes what I am saying a gaslight, and then I can address it. But you're running away from the truth by just saying gaslighting. You're not making any sense. Bree says, why is the web page blinking on our end, Egberto? It's blinking on my end as well sometimes because this is a new version of the software. And every time I get to a new, look, it's steady now, right? Every time I get a new version of the software, something happens with the video till they clean it up with some sort of a little fix or something of that sort. It stopped blinking and it looks like it just started back again. So I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if you remember several versions before. We also had that problem. But what we'll do is I'll turn it off and see if we can figure out. I'll see if there's a driver improvement for the video card or something that needs to be done. We also have with us Alistair Water, who's watching us as she drives. Thank you so kind. You know, I that's why I love our peeps. Our peeps, no matter where they are, no matter where they are. Okay, let's stop for a second. Lee, you just said from the river to the sea suggests the extermination of Jews to many. No way to spin that. All right, Lee, let's have a little conversation, and you can call me if you want to as well. All right, you can call me 281-823-7747. On the screen, well, I'm going to put it on. It's going to blink a bit. Blink a bit. On the screen, I have the original Likud, which is Netanyahu's party. I have that's the phrase that came out of the Likud platform, which says, between the sea and the Jordan River, from the river between the sea and the Jordan, there will only be Israel sovereignty. That's in their platform. Who is exterminating whom? The Likud platform had no place for the Palestinians. When you hear Rashida Tlaib use that phrase, she makes it quite clear. Also one state, but it's not the extermination of Jews. That was a propaganda selling point based on projection. And look at the Likud platform, Mr. Grant. I just showed it to you. It's there in black and white. Now, if we continue to allow the propagandists to lie about what Palestinians say and what Palestinians mean, we will never solve the problem. And that's what the Congresswoman Balint was talking about. Balint was talking about. So let's not continue to allow ourselves to be indoctrinated by those who just want the conflict to continue, or really the ones who want to send the Palestinians back. Well, actually, now they're not talking about sending the Palestinians back to the sea. They're talking about sending the Palestinians back to, or sending the Palestinians out into the Sinai. Okay? Lee Grant responds with, Tlaib is under fire for her statement. Many people find the phrase offensive. Well, many people find many phrases offensive. Many people find so many phrases offensive. So what's the point? I can say something and somebody finds it offensive. If I find it offensive, I may say, I'm sorry you find that offensive, but that's not what I meant. That's all I can do. Iris Huttinger, welcome to Politics Done Right, says, to hear the opinion of sharing feedback for both is what I need so much. My friend from Lebanon shares posts full of grief all the time, but I stand with Israel, of course. I saw the lefts of Israel stand up against Netanyahu till that day, and I read for years about youth of Palestina, but it was always difficult for me when my friend loved flags and cheesy, almost biblical pictures to show suffering totally overdraw and free of critical view. But since the 7th, I can't express anything. Yes, you can. I am not fearful of telling the truth and running the risk of false prophets calling me an anti-Semite. Because you know who I have? I have the support of my Jewish brothers and sisters. So I have no fear telling the truth. And in fact, there are many times I ask them to give me the supporting literature for the things that I talk about. Okay? So to what I'm going to tell you, Edith Huttinger, if you have the truth, don't shut your mouth up. That is how they silence progress. By telling you to shut up for the fear of being called an anti-Semite, for the fear of being called an Islamophobe. Don't do it. Speak the truth. Speak the truth. To which I say, I'm pretty sure Alistair Water will speak the truth. Alistair, you're on, my sister.
Brother, I gotta speak the truth. Both sides of those governments are corrupt. Both sides.
Yes.
The Israeli side and the Palestinian side.
Agreed.
But I stand with the people. I stand with the people. Whether you're a Jew or a Palestinian.
I
stand with the people.
Thank you.
The people didn't want Benjamin Netanyahu, but he got elected because he is corrupt. He knows how to play the game. He learned the game studying here in the United States. Listen to that man.
You know, I tell you what,
and
Alistair.
Ayatollah, just as corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Period. Punto final.
Oh, listen to my girl. Punto final. I love that, girlfriend. Look, let me tell you, Alistair, thank you for calling in, for saying that, because those people that are listening, I am pretty sure they get it. They get it, and they get it. So thank you for calling in, sis.
Absolutely. Keep it up, brother. Have a good weekend,
day.
Everybody.
You too now. But so yeah, Alistair is absolutely right. She's absolutely right. Okay? Absolutely right. Okay, we have another video. This one here is, as you guys know, Israel claims that, oh, we found this and that in the hospital. It's an operation center or something like that. But you know what we know? Bruce Pollard, a scientist, spoke about it yesterday. What the hell would they have all that metallic guns around inside of an MRI room where, you know, you're doing MRI stuff? Why would you store that kind of stuff there? And supposedly that's what Israel said. It was storage location, right? Why the hell would you store stuff like that? Do you know the power of the magnet and what would happen with those guns while they're turned on? You know, you kind of act as if you think people are stupid. They're not. If you wanted to create it, to frame it somewhere else. But Ayman Mohayedin says it best. I want you to listen to Brother Mohayedin. Like I said, there's just a few of these guys I follow as far as truthfulness when it comes to Israel and Hamas and Gaza and Hezbollah, West Bank. You have to be careful who you listen to. But check this out. Ayman Mohayedin, he justifiably questions whether Israel has really found that the hospital, the Al-Shifa hospital, is somehow a control center for Hamas. More than likely, in my personal opinion, just based on the evidence that they attempted to show, which was so minimal. It was so minimal, the evidence that they try to show, it could almost be a setup. But listen to what Ayman had to say, and I think it'll put it into better perspective.
When you hear about the reporting from Al-Shifa Hospital, what's your sort of assessment about what's going on here?
Well, the first thing I think of is back in 2008 when I was based in the Gaza Strip, and I would go to the Shifa Hospital to report frequently on all kinds of stories. These allegations that the Israelis have been making literally for 15 years. You can go back to 2008 and see Israeli officials making the same statements that Al-Shifa Hospital was being used by Hamas as a command and control center. Sometimes they would call it the headquarters. They would say that's where the prime minister at the time would be hiding. And all I could tell you is based on my reporting there for years, I've been there hundreds of times, walked around all of the complex of Al-Shifa Hospital, never once had anyone interfere with our reporting, telling us you can't go here, you can't access that. That's one. Two, I think it's important for viewers to understand that a lot of the doctors who work at Al-Shifa Hospital are foreign doctors, meaning they're volunteer doctors. Yeah. They come from the UK, they come from Sweden, some have come from the United States. And many of those doctors as well, we hear the language sometimes that the doctors and the hospitals are run and controlled by Hamas. But the truth is these doctors are Americans, Europeans, certainly no allegiance to Hamas whatsoever. And they have spoken openly about what they have seen and how they were never denied any access to anywhere in the hospital grounds for them to be able to go and see for themselves. That's not to say it's not true. I'm just saying it's been 15 years of these allegations, hundreds of reporters who have passed through those hallways, hundreds of doctors, including local and foreign doctors who have come through there, and never substantiated by anybody outside of the Israelis and now the Americans.
The president was asked point blank about the intelligence he had that the Al-Shifa Hospital was a Hamas headquarters. He said clearly in a press conference yesterday, Hamas does have headquarters weapons material below this hospital, and I suspect others. The U.S. is very out front on this. Yeah. And it feels like a lot hangs on the IDF's ability to show that this, in fact, was a Hamas headquarters. Right. This feels like an incredibly weighted moment for all of this. And I wonder what you make of Biden's strategy thus far.
So again, I would say as a journalist, where is the evidence? Where is the intelligence? I'm old enough to have remembered 2003 and the whole weapons of mass destruction debacle in Iraq. So I err on the side of caution when it comes to governments and intelligence officials saying, here's the proof and we're going to war for this proof. Again, it's not to say that it's not true. It's just simply to say we would need to see what that evidence is. And Israel would have to make a compelling case. And they have now been in control of Al-Shifa Hospital for the better part of 48 hours, going on to 72 hours tomorrow. And what we have seen so far raises a lot of questions as to how they have described it. So again, they described it as a Hamas headquarters or command and control. The language has shifted a little bit from command and control to as Admiral Kerber said earlier, a node, a command and control node, which I'm not sure what that distinction is, but it just seems like it's a slightly downgraded description of what's inside. And what we're seeing also really raises questions on what Israel itself has described as its intelligence failure on October 7th. So there's just a lot of questions that I think as journalists, I would be looking at with a more cautious eye before running into the conclusion that the Israelis and the Americans are saying.
Well,
you know, it's not important whether these positions are being held by Hamas or whatever. Look, Hamas is a terrorist organization, but it doesn't justify Israel's massive killing of people to get to these terrorists wherever they are. In these times of technological advances, the thing that we have on our side is time. You wait to knock these people off as needed. Not go in and decimate the population, not go in and invoke what can only be called genocide. You cannot, based on everything that Israel has done in Gaza, that's the only valid assertion one can make about what's occurring there today. And you know, I don't even blink about that. It is genocide, and people kind of get upset and want to, they want to challenge you with genocide. They want to challenge you when you call Israel an apartheid state. Oh, they want to challenge you. Well, was South Africa an apartheid state? Yes. Okay. What did South Africa do with black people again? They threw them into something called what again? The Bantustans. The Bantustan. They were away from the population and they had to have permits to get into South Africa proper after they leave their Bantustan, right? Well, let's talk about the Palestinians in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. to get into Israel, they have to show their papers or they have to find a way to get into work. They may have a few of them that they allow to work because of the shortage of labor in Israel, right? Yeah. And they don't have any rights. The Palestinians, when they go, they have no rights, right? Right. Okay. Apartheid. That's exactly the definition of apartheid. But they get mad when you say it because they said, but Israeli Palestinians can vote. Yeah, Israeli Palestinians, don't forget, inside of South Africa, there were the black people, the mixed and the others, and they had gradations of levels, right? So please, folks, understand the reality. Understand the reality. Eric talks about, and the reason I am challenging Eric today is because it is something that a lot of people are trying to use and put out there in the ethos. He says, Hamas is terror. You can't bargain with evil. All right, let's stop right there. Hamas is terror. And how do you define terror? Indiscriminately killing people, right? Which is what Hamas did. Hamas indiscriminately killed 1,200 innocent people, 1,200 innocent people. All right, Netanyahu, under the auspices of the IDF, killed over 12,000 people. Who should we fear? Who should we fear? I have a feeling we should fear Netanyahu more so than we fear Hamas. Don't you think? Netanyahu has all those big, nasty bombs that he doesn't fear using on innocent human beings to catch one or two. But then again, we did the same thing. We were trying to get Noriega, and we killed several thousand Panamanians to do so with bombs. Did Netanyahu have a good teacher? I don't know. Folks, we got to be honest, man. We have got to be honest. Here's our last video of the day, and it's very well worth the read because what it talks about is the education of Americans now making a difference. Thank you, progressives. Thank you, progressives. Michael Steele nailed it today. As Morning Joe Scarborough attempts to continue to toe the line, the standard American line that Israel can do no wrong, that the neoliberals can do no wrong, that somehow the world needs to operate in a neoliberal fashion. You know who knows better? The younger folks are noting, why are we doing this? Why do we operate like this? Why do we allow countries like Israel to do as they please? Why do we allow the defense industrial complex to operate as they do? Right? And Michael Steele laid it out. And with a whole lot of pushback from Morning Joe, he makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense as far as, look, it's a different world. And while they've been dogging, let's say, the TikTok and claiming that a lot of kids are getting a lot of history without context, well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and play this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Progressive Democrats who would say to me, why are we spending $40 billion in Ukraine when we should be trying to help people here back at home? And you could hear that out on the campaign trail. I think one of the interesting things about Israel, and I was mentioning it earlier in the program, the Gallup polling from earlier this year, much before October the 7th, that did show that Democrats had switched their support for the first time ever for more support for Palestinians than for Israelis. And you're seeing it also mirrored in the Republican Party to a lesser degree, but you're also seeing support for Israel decline in the Republican Party. And I do think that reflects a worldview of retrenchment generally. And we sort of have expected because we've seen it with Trump around Ukraine, but it's happening on the Israeli side as well. And you just have this shift in American politics going on at the moment.
I think it's exactly what you put your finger on, a generational change. We're now evolving into the 21st century in a way that a lot of folks still are holding on to 20th century thinking about geopolitical relationships and outcomes. And there's a generation of Americans and Israelis and Jordanians and Iranians who are having a different view of this world, because what they recognize a lot sooner than perhaps us at the end of the baby boom generation.
I'm not the baby boom generation.
He's a Gen Xer. Come on, let's claim it for Gen X.
I'm sorry.
I'm a Gen Xer.
By about 2 weeks,
forgot that.
I claim it proudly.
I forgot that.
You're a boomer?
No, I'm a Gen Xer by about 2 weeks.
I'm a Gen Xer. They keep moving it.
Okay,
do you want to know? Do you want to know when you're a Gen Xer? Like, the test is if you went to see The Big Chill and you sat in the movie theater and you went, I hate all of those. That's how you know. And I'm like, you're like, thank God I wasn't a part of that pretentious.
All right, so I'll own the space by myself.
Okay, you be the boomer.
So I'll just own the tail end of the baby boomers by myself. But unlike our generation, this emerging generation does not take to heart or just hold steadfast to the old rules.
What are the old rules?
Well, the old rules are exactly, all things Israel all the time. They're always right about everything. And we're going to
support them. What about Ukraine?
The same thing.
But it's not the same thing. I mean, you look at what's happened recently. But history has a way of letting people know that the world has not moved on, that we are still stuck in the old rules. Like, for instance, if the United States...
I didn't finish my point.
Yeah, but it's my show. Let me finish my point so you can finish your point. We leave Iraq, ISIS forms.
Yep.
We have to go back to Iraq, and it's even uglier. We leave Afghanistan, all hell breaks loose. Those old rules happen. We leave, we stop supporting Ukraine, hell breaks loose there, then it happens in Taiwan. The old rules are the new rules.
Okay,
man.
So you made a point there, but what I'm telling you is that's not a point that's accepted by the folks who stood up at the DNC. It's not a point that's accepted by the Israelis necessarily on the ground in Israel right now. I get what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with your point. I'm putting on the table what's out there that's happening real time and why it somewhat explains the attitudes that you're seeing popping up in polls. Now, you may not like it, generationally speaking, but you have to understand how they're looking at the world. They're not looking at the world the way you did, and they're not seeing the outcomes the way you want to.
A lot of complaint in this particular segment, and I didn't put out the entire thing, was about how a lot of kids are getting, our young people are getting educated on TikTok with history without context. And look, to some extent, they are correct. A lot of what you hear on TikTok whenever you're getting real history, it's generally in a corpuscular view, if you will. But the truth of the matter is the following. There is much to learn by many educators who decided to use TikTok as their platform. What offends many people is that the teller of the history, the person who is narrating the history, is not holding the line to all the things or the ways that we were taught in school, the indoctrinative manner in which history was taught in schools in the United States and other Western countries, which had a decidedly biased notion based on the economic system chosen, based on the type of social cultures there, etc. What we have on TikTok is others expressing themselves with the same fact-based historical occurrences. In other words, where we learn glory, glory, hallelujah, George Washington was all good, the founding fathers were all good. History being told on TikTok points out a much more detailed, a much more nuanced version of our creation. We attack other countries for look how they treat their citizenry. And on TikTok, you'd get, look how they treat their citizenry, but look at how we treat our own. Look at the types of genocides that we've effected during our formation and thereafter. Let's remember the Trail of Tears. Let's remember slavery. Let's remember all these things. Let's remember breaking of contracts in Black Rock and other places where we criticize others without looking at the full history. So what many have been talking about and why Michael Steele nails it. History is fact-based, but it's interpretive many a times. And what we find is free-form platforms allow that story to be told. It is up to you to decide if you're going to go in depth with the proper context, something that I make sure to do whenever I learn something on TikTok. But please don't knock the platform that's given raw historical data that can always be looked up. Again, the young people that are making a lot of these great historical videos, etc., are doing a service to us all so that we don't remain in our lane where we fool ourselves into a history that never really was, but one that we want to bend to conform to some false reality. Okay, let's see. I awakened when I awoke to be awake instead of dead. Ah, look at you. Look at E2247 trying to become a sort of Tom C. That's not a limerick, but it sure is funny. I awakened when I awoke to be awake instead of dead. Ah, I like that. But you know what? To keep the waking there, I would have said, I awakened when I awoke to be awake instead of not being woke. Ah, that's just my take. Hey, guy, what can I say? Lee Grant says, woke is being aware of what the hell is going on and showing how white people are to blame for it all. Now, if you decide to believe Fox News when they say that, that's on you, Brother Grant. When I call about woke, that's not what I'm talking about. In fact, let me be clear here. To my white brothers and sisters here, you've heard me say this on KPFT and elsewhere. I am of the strong belief that we are all victims of our rearing. And by me accepting that we are all victims of our rearing, just like I expect the forgiveness that I got for having been a homophobe, for having been a sexist, is what I afford those who were reared to be racist, who were reared to be anti anything else. And as such, I look at everybody individually. You were reared one way. After you've been made aware of what really is, if you decide to maintain your stance, then we know that it's more than just your rearing. So, Lee Grant, take that out of your head. Woke is not being aware of what is going on and showing how white people are to blame for it all. Woke is ensuring, hey, Carl Cox, how you doing, brother? Says, was late. However, me, and had an interesting post. Where's your post? Bridget, Egberto Willis, they do not. They're partially racist, but are unwilling to learn. I hear you, girl. I hear you. Paul Fleming says, it used to be the alert of what others were doing to people of color, but now it's what being done to ask of the working class. You know, it's funny because the whole race thing is used to divide so that those on top, and by the way, those on top are not all white, because I put a lot of our, let's look at Johnson, the guy who owns BET. I put him in the same boat that I put any other capitalist that hurts people. Look, go to my website and look up Johnson, keywords Johnson and BET, and you see what I had to write about him. And by the way, brother Lee Grant, he's a black dude. All right. I'm an equal opportunity offender of anybody who hurts people. That's who I am. That's who I am. Anyway, I got to get out of here. But before I get out of here, Today's Friday, so I wish all of you to have a great weekend. But beforehand, I must say, folks, please support our program. And how can you support our program? It's not hard at all, as I am picking it up. I don't have it ready. I always forget to do it, so I probably should have it pasted somewhere. Please support us by going to politicsdoneright.com/support. Politicsdoneright.com/support. That has all the different forms in which you can support the program. Please do so as best you can. That is how we continue to get the truth out. Likewise, please consider becoming a paid supporter of our newsletter. The newsletter is free, but we ask those who have the wherewithal to do so to please become a paid supporter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter is the way to do it. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Anyway, folks, I want you to have a wonderful weekend. Of course, we'll have replays of two of our programs that we'll have a replay of the program. So please remember, if you missed it or if you don't want to go and you just kind of want to see it live, it'll be there for all to see. But anyhow, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.